Coming up on Religion Today, last night a man left 95 arguments against the church nailed to the Castle Church's doors in Wittenberg, Germany. And later, a close call. See how one man came out of a lightning strike alive. All that and more coming up in just 1 minute. Good morning and welcome to Religion Today. I'm Nathan Ford. Coming out of Wittenberg, Germany this morning, a man is arguing against the church after posting 95 things he feels the church is wrong about. Religion Today reporter Nicole Lyons is in Wittenberg with more.
Thank you, Nathan. It's a lot quieter here now, but just a few hours ago, a crowd was gathered to look at the long list of arguments posted on the door of the Castle Church in Wittenberg, Germany. Martin Luther, a University of Wittenberg professor, was seen late last night posting the papers to the door. In an attempt to shed light on the wrongdoings of the church, Martin Luther posted his 95 Theses to the Castle Church's doors late last night, just in time for the All Saints' Day church service. The list details his feelings against the church's views on indulgences.
My argument isn't against the indulgences in their original sense. That is, I believe in the merciful release of the penitent sinner from a penance imposed earlier by a priest. What I do oppose is all the additions and provisions of indulgences.
Luther said the additions are harmful to human salvation and infect everyday practices of the church. Common citizens of the church have a very real fear of life after death, given the church's illustration of purgatory.
They don't have a great fear of hell because of their belief that if they died forgiven and blessed by a priest, they were guaranteed access through heaven's gates, whose keys were held by the church.
But they feared the pain of purgatory. The church teaches that before a person reaches heaven, they must be cleansed of every sin they commit in the mortal life.
Once penance was made a sacrament, the ordinary person believed in an indulgence assured the shortening of the punishments to be endured in purgatory.
Luther saw the trade of indulgences as wholly unwarranted by Scripture. He said it encouraged people in their sin and turned their mind away from Christ and God's forgiveness. In Wittenberg, I'm Nicole Lyons.
Twitter is lighting up over this controversy because who needs the movable type when you have 140 characters? Almost 1 million tweets have sprung up in the last 12 hours, with the majority of those being sent in from Wittenberg. The hashtag Reformation quickly became the most used hashtag ever on Twitter and is still trending hours after the original posting. Check out what some people have said so far. If you having Pope problems, I feel bad for you, son. I got 95 theses, but transubstantiation ain't one. Here we stand. Grace alone, faith alone, Scripture alone, and one from the man himself, @TheRealLuther, hashtag nailed it. So who exactly is this Martin Luther fellow, the guy that's causing such a commotion across Europe by posting 95 theses on the door of the Castle Church in Wittenberg? This 34-year-old monk was not planning on living a monastic life. Instead, his father sent him to the University of Erfurt to study law in 1492. July 2nd, 1505, Luther was on his way back to Erfurt from visiting his parents when he was caught in a terrible thunderstorm. As lightning struck all around him, Luther huddled on the ground and called out to St. Anne.
I remember how frightened I was, and at that moment, it was life or death. I realized what my only hope was. St. Anne, help me. I will become a monk.
On July 17th, Luther held true to his promise, entering the Black Monastery in Erfurt. This, of course, did not please his father, Hans Luther, who says he still refuses to talk to his son.
He's a disgrace to the family, and I'd really rather not comment any further.
Martin Luther took his monastic vows in 1506 and began studying theology at the University of Erfurt in 1507. He became a professor and later doctor of theology at the University of Wittenberg in 1512. He is widely becoming one of the most popular professors in Germany, and Wittenberg administrators sense their institution's enrollment will soon boom.
We support Dr. Luther and his teachings. If our university is at the center of something in the church much larger, so be it.
However, beyond students, Luther seems to have more enemies than friends at this point, and we all know how well that worked out for Jan Hus. Reporting for Religion Today, I'm Nathan Ford.
Not all good has come out of the 95 Theses. Experts are expecting a decline in public service due in part to Luther's suggestion that we are saved by grace alone. Martin Luther's radical views could create a community that wishes not to help others in the eyes of the Pope. In an interview with Religion Today, Luther said his goal is to translate the Bible into German, the language of the people. Although this has been done before, it is believed Luther may add his own touch to it. This could include adding the idea that Christians are saved by faith alone, not works. The Pope believes this idea is abstinent and that all believers of it will be punished. But he has concern for Christian communities as well.
Our Christian communities are known around the cube for their kindness and willingness to help others. It's insulting to me that this radical monk believes good works should not be a part of being a good Christian. Any followers will quickly turn to selfish laziness and cause our poor to be unfed and unclothed.
Luther explained further, saying good works come from faith. Reporting for Religion Today, I'm Nicole Lyons. To help us ease up the rumors surrounding the arguments against the church and to help us figure out what all this means, we brought in Bishop Schneider. Thank you for joining us, Bishop Schneider. So what does this all mean for the church?
Luther has shaken up the church as we know it. As we believe God has spoken to humanity and acted on behalf of humanity, the account of how God has dealt with people is given in Scripture. We believe God continues to speak through the words spoken to prophets and apostles, and in this personal revelation, God himself spoke in love to create humanity and renewed people will hear and answer in faith.
So what does the Bible say about indulgences?
The Bible is rarely read by common people, and Luther is trying to act as sort of a liaison between the church and the Bible. When the Bible is read, it's interpreted in 4 levels: the literal, spiritual, allegorical, and anagogical. Faith is regarded as a matter of agreeing to statements about God, the soul, grace, and other subjects. Many theologians tend to place the church between the believer and his Bible. The church tends to dictate what a believer believes.
And how is Martin Luther changing the views of the church?
Martin Luther is challenging believers to think for themselves. Luther is rejecting the authority of the Pope, the merit of good works, indulgences, the mediation of the Virgin Mary and the saints, and all sacraments not instituted by Christ. Along with the doctrine of transubstantiation, the view of the Mass as a sacrifice, purgatory, private confession of sin, celibacy of clergy, and the use of Latin in services. Luther's trying to make people realize they can have a more personal relationship with God, that the church is trying to control the thoughts and actions of believers, and Luther says that's just not right.
All right, let's talk about his work in translating the Bible. How will translating the Bible into German impact the church?
I think it will open the eyes and minds of believers to a world they have only heard of from their priests. Right now, priests are interpreting the Bible the way they were told to from the Pope, and therefore the congregation is hearing one man's views on the Bible. With Martin Luther translating the Bible into common language, it's like a whole other world is opening up to these people who haven't been able to read and interpret the stories for themselves.
Thank you for joining us, Bishop Schneider. And that's all the time we have for today's episode of Religion Today. Tune in tomorrow for a brand new show. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook for updates on the Reformation as the day goes on.